There are some damn good reasons for why the Florida Gators are national championship contenders.
You are Locked On Gators, your daily podcast on the Florida Gators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Locked On Gators, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day. Every day we are available daily and free wherever you listen to podcasts and on YouTube. Today's episode of Locked On Gators is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code Locked On College for $20 off your first purchase. As always, I am your host, Brandon Olsen. Yesterday was the 4-year anniversary that I've been at Locked On, and you guys were overwhelmingly supportive and appreciative. So thank you. I appreciate that. Didn't expect that at all. Loved it. But we're talking about the Florida Gators being great, right? That's what we're doing. That's what we're focused on. We're not focused on anything anybody said. We're looking at how the Florida Gators are looked at as national champion contenders and potentially, arguably, national championship favorites. Some sports books do have Florida as the favorite. Part of that is because of Cooper Flagg's injury status. He's listed as questionable. But we're also going to look at what the analytics say here, right? And unsurprisingly, I am a nerd. Who'd have thought? Love analytics here. And we're going to go with evanmiya.com, EVANMIYA. evanmiya.com, Evan Miya on Twitter. Fantastic basketball analytics resource. They put out their whole March Madness, I guess, primer, they called it. And we're going to start by looking at predicted efficiency, right? This is predicted efficiency that's adjusted for injuries, offensive rating, defensive rating. That's adjusted for injuries, like for Duke, for example, Cooper Flagg being questionable. For Alabama, Grant Nelson's status. It's already adjusted for those. There is a section, and the chart is broken up into just sections. Again, straight line sections, nothing crazy. But there is a titles favorite section, or a title favorites section. And that is, for the last 10 years, has represented, like, the champion has come from that section. Last 9 champions, because the tournament getting canceled in 2020. So the past 10 years, the national champion has come from that title favorites section. And for Florida, you've got, or where that section goes, Florida's in that section. Duke is in that section. Auburn is in that section. Houston is in that section. And Alabama is barely in that section. So that section is telling you, hey, these are essentially how we view the 5 best teams for the tournament based on their offensive rating and their defensive rating. And so when you actually look at the chart, if you want to look at the chart, I'll include a link in the description below if that is something that interests you. But when you look at the chart, you can actually see where teams are ranked, and it can be broken down into, if they're more defensive oriented, offensive oriented, and where they get better in that area. And for Florida, unsurprisingly, they are a team that is just analytically loved by every metric. I mean, they finished with, if I'm not mistaken, Ken Pom had them with a top, the number 1 offense in the country. Yep. And the number 9 defense in the country. They've been built for this, right? They're built for March. That's not surprising that they're there. They should be there because, again, that's what they're built for. You look in that title favorite section, and Houston is on the far right because that's saying, hey, team defensive rating. Like, that's what they're amazing at. That's their bread and butter. They're also the lowest offensive team in that section. Not surprising. Houston's listed as the best defensive team in the country. Not surprising that their offense is low because, like everybody has always known, they are not a good offensive team. Okay. You look at Duke, and they are all the way at the top. Best offense. Defensively, they're not bad, but they're not amazing. They're not on the amazing spectrum there. Auburn, worse offense than Duke, worse defense than Duke. Alabama, similar offense to Auburn, worse defense than Auburn. And then there's Florida, okay? And Florida in that section is just below Duke offensively, but better than Duke defensively. When you look at that title's favorite section, the Florida Gators are the number 2 offense in that section. Again, predicted efficiency. Number 2 offense and the number 2 defense. That's what we're talking about. The Florida Gators are looked at as an elite team, and they are an elite team. You look at that section, you look at their percentages, because this primer also had probabilities for winning the championship, and you look at who's up there, and Florida, third most likely, okay? It's Duke with a 24.7% chance of winning the national championship. It's Houston with a 15.4% chance of winning the national championship. The Florida Gators with a 15.1% chance of winning the national championship. And then there's Auburn with a 13.1% chance of winning the national championship. But when you also look at that, Florida, the second most likely team to make it to the national championship. Duke is at 36.8%. Florida is at 26.8%. Houston is at 24.1%. And Auburn is at 26.6%. So Auburn right behind Florida to make it, but Auburn also the least likely team of the top teams and of the number 1 seed to win it all. And then, of course, Alabama also in there. They've got a 4.8% chance of winning it all and a 10.4% chance of winning or making it to the national championship game. But a big thing there is they're in the same bracket as Duke. So if you want to make it, you've either got to go through Duke or go through the team that beat Duke. And neither of those teams right now, by the way, 100% healthy. Cooper Flagg, questionable. Grant Nelson, we don't know his status yet. Neither of those teams are healthy. But the Florida Gators looked at as one of the few championship favorites. And again, this isn't to say that okay, these are the only 5 teams with a chance of winning the national championship. These are the only 5 teams that can possibly win the national championship. But this is to say that, hey, these are the 5 most likely teams. And over the past 10 years, which, again, I think it's important to acknowledge when we talk about the past 10 years what analytics say, because teams have been using analytics to build their roster and take their approach to potentially winning a national championship. So even if you don't like analytics, it's what teams are using to build their championship or to build their roster. And it's what championship teams have been doing. And this is what the analytics say about those championship teams. This is the trend. It's not fact that it's going to happen, but this is the trend. You could also look at a team like Tennessee or St. John's, who is also in Florida's bracket, and say, hey, they're just outside that section. They're right there. Both of them. I guess St. John's, their offense just isn't good enough there. They're actually a below average offense when you look at the field. Tennessee, good in both, better defensively, of course, but they're not far enough defensively, not high enough offensively. They ain't there. So Tennessee's right below it. St. John's is right below it. But right now, Florida, Duke, Auburn, Houston, and barely Alabama are the title favorites based on their predicted efficiency, which again is accounting for injuries. So maybe if Cooper Flagg was fully healthy, maybe Duke would have a better defensive edge than Florida does. Cooper Flagg, great player, right? So maybe Cooper Flagg would give Duke that better defensive edge, but this is, again, him being questionable. This is what the numbers say about it. And so Florida looked at as a national championship contender and the 3rd most likely team to walk away with the national championship. We are going to talk about kill shots. Yeah, I mean, I don't know how you can't be interested by kill shots, right? We're going to talk about kill shots when we get back with Locked On Gators. You ever check your bank account and wonder, where in the hell did all my money go? Well, between dining out, online shopping, entertainment, the new MLB The Show came out. I don't know if you play that. Don't buy subs. It's a waste of money. It's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so you stop just managing your money and start building wealth. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONCollege for half off of your first year. Imagine you're watching your favorite team live, right? Because look, we got a 64 team tournament right now. I don't know what team you like. Maybe you're a Norfolk State fan and you're here to watch this. Maybe you're a St. John's fan, which, by the way, I live in Queens, so what's up? Maybe you're a St. John's fan and you're looking for a team that you're looking for a preview of who St. John's may eventually play if the Red Storm and the Florida Gators do meet up. So imagine you're watching your favorite team live. You're feeling the energy of the crowd and you're witnessing unforgettable moments, right? I mean, Kemba, just buzzer beaters, just crazy. There is nothing like experiencing a big game in person. Getting tickets shouldn't be stressful. That's where Game Time comes in, making it easier than ever to grab last-minute seats at unbeatable prices. And with Game Time picks, maybe it is truly last minute. Your team advances, right? Use Game Time picks and you will not find any better way to get better value, which we're talking analytics, value matters, for tickets to sports, concerts, comedy, theater, everything. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. That's LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day. Every day we are available daily and free reviews in the podcast and on YouTube. And we are talking about kill shots, right? Which, if you're part of the insider program, you got this information yesterday, or at least some of this information yesterday. If you're not part of the program and you want to be, go ahead and join the links in the description below. If you want to just search it up, it's joinsubtext.com/LockedOnGators. But a kill shot is when a team goes on a run of 10 plus or more. That's a kill shot. We've seen kill runs is another thing you can call it. There's a few different terms that all mean the same thing, right? A run of 10 or more to 0. Okay. And I think that's the important distinction. It's not just, like a 16-4 run. It's 10 to 0. And according to evanmiya.com, which is the source that we're using for all this information, a team with at least one kill shot, which, by the way, like kill shot, great name, right? And no, I don't just mean in, is it Date Night with Steve Carell and Tina Fey when they turn I'm not going to say the word, but they turn it to the side. That's a kill shot. That's a kill shot. Like I just want to say great name. But according to evanmiya.com, a team with at least one 10-0 run wins 71% of the time. The team with more kill shot runs wins 81% of the time. 2 kill shots wins 88% of the time. A 15-0 run wins 86% of the time. And a 20-0 run wins 91% of the time. I have 3 quick thoughts that you can I'll sum them up into one. 2 kill shot runs winning 88% of the time. A 15-0 run winning 86% of the time. And a 20-0 run winning 91% of the time. Actually kind of crazy because I feel like just in my head, I'm like, oh, if you can outscore a team 20-0 at some point, you should win like 98% of the time. I do think that would, or not, I know that would account for situations where you go, all right, well, we're down 30 and we go on a 20-0 run. We're still losing the game, things like that. Or we start off on a 20-0 run, basically, and then it's them chipping away for the remainder of the game, things like that. But the teams that have a good kill shot differential, according to evanmiya.com, teams that are strong teams with kill shot differentials, Duke, not surprising. Texas A&M, not surprising. Iowa State, not surprising. This is in order, by the way, by the adjusted kill shots margin. So Duke, Texas A&M, Iowa State, Yale, Michigan, Marquette, Houston, Florida, Memphis, Auburn, Missouri, UCLA, Michigan State. And I will also say this, at least this is how I interpret the information. You can interpret the information how you'd like to interpret the information. I look at it and I say, all right, well, some of that makes sense, right? Like Yale being a great team in the Ivy League, if they're considerably better than the rest of their competition, they should be going on these kill shot runs, right? However, I also like that. And I say, well, you play who you play, right? You play who's in your conference, who's in your division, whoever it may be that you're playing. And if you beat the crap out of them, you beat the crap out of them. That's kind of all the context you need, right? But when we look at this, there are just two teams that have gone on more kill shot runs than the Florida Gators. Okay. And those two teams are Duke and Iowa State. Iowa State was one I wasn't anticipating. I'm going to be honest with you. They're a great defensive team. Love what they do. I think they can make a run. They're just absolute menaces. But I just didn't think that they would have that many runs because they have 34 kill shot runs. Duke has 33. Florida and UCLA each have 31. Okay. One of the reasons that Florida is higher on the list than UCLA is that Florida has allowed one less kill shot run conceded than UCLA. Also, I know I listed all those teams that have less kill shots than Florida. That is because there are 6 teams that have allowed 10 kill shot runs. And again, UCLA allowed 11. So 7 teams total allowing double digits. But like Duke, Memphis, and Missouri have all allowed only 7 kill shot runs all season, which is kind of nuts. That you can go, yeah, we've allowed 10-0 runs just 7 times this season is ridiculous. Texas A&M's at 9, Auburn's at 8, Houston's at 9. Great defenses, right? But I mean, you look at Memphis, they've only allowed 7, but they only went on 23. So things like that where it's like, yeah, well, you also don't go on runs to get that better adjusted kill shot margin because Memphis tied with Florida. Florida goes on more, but Florida also allows more. So that's where that comes in. But these kill shot runs, usually I feel like that's a pretty strong determining factor in March, right? Going on a run can take a team out of it completely. Going on a run to erase a deficit if you're losing, yeah, which I mean we've seen Florida do it, right? I don't even need to use a hypothetical. We've seen Florida do it. Look at Florida versus Georgia, the last matchup. And look, Florida lost that game, right? But the fact remains that Florida was down 26-0 at one point, or was down 26 at one point. And then they went on insane runs to catch up. And Georgia went on a kill shot run that game. Florida ended up taking the lead late, but then Georgia took the lead again and won the game. But that was the thing where Florida gives them up. Sometimes I think it's just in unfortunate circumstances, right? Or unfortunate scenarios. And also I will say this. While Florida in that section is near the top in terms of how many kill shot runs conceded, they're also way down in terms of just allowing them in general. Okay. Like this is in the good and good section. That's essentially how you can look at this area that we're talking about right now. The strong teams are the good at going on runs and good at keeping teams from going on runs. So while Florida may be, again, worse off in this section, they are still very good overall. Okay. So they're at 0.3 kill shot runs per game allowed. Okay. But they're at just below 0.8 per game scored for themselves. So they're at 0.3 there. And it goes all the way up to above 0.8, right? It goes up to I think Akron's at like 0.9. That's how bad we're talking. So Florida, very good at both of these. They're one of the worst in the good section, but very good at both of these. And then, like I said, you look at the adjusted kill shots conceded per game. Florida's at 0.33. Iowa State, Yale, Michigan, and UCLA are all worse in this section than Florida. Okay? And UCLA is the only team that's allowed more than Florida. That's where we talk about the per game stuff, right? And then in terms of adjusted kill shots per game, Duke, A&M, Iowa State, Yale, Michigan are all better than Florida there. Okay, but again, Florida's gone on more kill shots total, and also like I mentioned before, I think strength of schedule matters, right? Like I'm not even trying to go SEC, but SEC has 14 teams in the tournament for a reason, right? Because the SEC is really strong this year. And Florida did this against the SEC. Texas A&M as well, also in the SEC. Auburn, Missouri, all in the SEC, all having these insane runs. That's impressive, okay? I'm not just trying to downplay anything that Iowa State has done or anything that Yale has done. I'm just saying that this is what you have. Actually, Yale's kind of insane in the fact that they have more than one kill shot run per game on average. Like that's nuts. No other team is there. I think Iowa State's the closest. Yeah, Iowa State's the closest with 0.87. Big gap there. We are going to look at the rest of Florida's side of the bracket when we get back with Locked On Gators. Daylight savings snuck up on us once again. Happens every time. And if you're feeling that lost hour of sleep, 5-Hour Energy has your back. The extra sunshine means more time for fun, but sometimes you need a little boost of power through at least, transitionary period, we'll call it. Whether you're staying up late watching the NCAA tournament, which I will be doing every single day, squeezing in a round of golf after work, which I have never done, or just trying to keep up with your busy day, which, yeah, I get it. 5-Hour Energy gives you that quick, refreshing pick-me-up whenever you need it. I love the grape flavor, by the way. I mean, it's just immaculate. No other way to say it. Head to 5hourenergy.com to find over 15 flavors to choose from. Again, my favorite is grape. They've got watermelon, blue raspberry, peach mango, strawberry, banana. They got a ton. You can even build your own 12-pack or 24-pack delivered right to your door. If you need one now, grab a 5-Hour Energy shot at your local grocery or convenience store. They're everywhere. Stock up today and stay energized.
The NCAA tournament is here, and so is the bracket breakdown.
Locked On Podcast Network and Amazon Fire TV channels are teaming up to deliver NCAA tournament coverage like never before. Watch studio shows featuring former players and Locked On's local experts as they guide you through every upset, buzzer beater, and bracket matchup.
Stream it all for free on Amazon Fire TV channel. Search Bracket Breakdown to see it all for free.
It's your team every day.
Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day. Every day, we are available daily and free wherever you listen to the podcast and on YouTube. To wrap up today's episode of Locked On Gators, we are looking at the West region for the Florida Gators, or at least the West region of the March Madness tournament, where the Florida Gators are the 1 seed in there. Seeding-wise, it goes Florida at 1, St. John's at 2, Texas Tech at 3, Maryland at 4. Then you got Memphis at 5, Missouri at 6, Kansas at 7, UConn at 8, Oklahoma at 9, Arkansas at 10. 11 is Drake, 12 Colorado State, Grand Canyon U at 13, UNC Wilmington at 14, Omaha at 15, Norfolk State at 16. And Norfolk State is, of course, the team that the Florida Gators are playing in the first round of the tournament. Florida, by the way, according to evanmiya.com, has a 96.4% chance of winning their first game. UConn has a 66.5% chance of winning, and that's relevant because Florida will play the winner of UConn or Oklahoma. And like I talked about yesterday in the third segment, when we were talking about that game, I was saying I think UConn's the better team here. I think Oklahoma's a better matchup for Florida just because I think Florida is so much better than Oklahoma, and I think that Florida matches up well against Oklahoma. But UConn, still a good team, but Florida will play the winner of UConn and Oklahoma. And at this point, according to evanmiya.com, again, UConn has a 66.5% chance of winning, 2/3% chance, or 2/3 chance that they're going to win this game. But looking at the rest of this West bracket, the 2 seed, St. John's, they are, like I mentioned before, they are just outside of the title's favorite section. And the reason that they missed it is because of their offensive rating. They are not a great offensive team. That's not their game. That's not what they look to do a ton. They are more of a defensive team. They'll grind it out, and they'll kind of make you play. And by the way, when I say that they'll grind it out, I don't mean that they're one of those like Mike White Florida teams, right? Which is just horrible. But I don't mean that they're one of those Mike White Florida teams in terms of, we're going to slow it down, get the ball in the post, work with that. St. John's, they go up tempo. They do. They go up tempo. They're just not a good shooting team. It's as simple as that. They're one of the worst shooting teams in the country. So they're just not a good shooting team, and they don't shoot a lot of threes at all. They're more twos. And I mean, they have 59.7% of their points come from 2-pointers. That's the third highest percentage in the country. 23% of their points come from threes. That's 355th out of 364 teams. That's rough, right? So that's why their offensive rating is so low. The 3 and 4 seeds, so Texas Tech at 3 and Maryland at 4, are both in that Final Four potential section with St. John's. Because like I mentioned, when we look at the championship favorites, the title favorites section, it goes title favorites are the good and good. Then in terms of getting worse, it goes Final Four potential. And I'll even read the way that evanmiya.com expresses this. Title favorites. The last 9 champs have been in this group on Selection Sunday, which is relevant that it's Selection Sunday. Final Four potential. Talented enough to make a deep run when playing well. Hit or miss. Some will make noise in March. Others will flame out. A lot of teams there. A lot of teams in this section as well. Tough sledding. Hard paths for these teams. Some because of injury, which is relevant. And then you've got the rest, which just says happy to have you. The teams that are not very, we'll say not very appreciated here, right? That's how we'll describe it. And so when you look at the West, Florida is in the title favorites section. St. John's is in the Final Four potential section, again, just below that title favorites section. So they just barely missed that. Kansas and Texas Tech are both in that Final Four potential section as well. So you look at them. Then you've got, Texas Tech and Maryland are in the Final Four potential section. Kansas is just below it, and UConn is also just below it. And when I mean just below it, I mean that Kansas is close enough where I'm looking at it and I'm like, well, they're right there. They're right. Like they're touching the line. Their logo is touching the line. Middle of their logo is not. And I'm going by the middle of the logo. So the middle of their logo is not. UConn, again, touching the line. Middle of the logo is not, but they're right there. So there's legitimately, again, looking at Florida, St. John's, Texas Tech, Maryland, Kansas, and UConn. You got the 7 teams in there that are right there. And so I think that's important, right? To just acknowledge there. Memphis and Missouri are not in that section, which I do think is relevant. And I think that we can add some context there. There's also a section here of the underseeded teams in the West bracket. Underseeded teams are teams that are better than their seeding suggests. Crazy how that works. Maryland, Kansas, Colorado State, and Norfolk State are in there. Again, this does not mean that Norfolk State is some dark horse Cinderella team. This means that Norfolk State is better than a 16th seed. That's it. The most concerning thing there should be Maryland, because Maryland is right in that Final Four potential section, and they're listed as underseeded. I feel like you could look at that and say, all right, like that's people probably overlooking Maryland, which you shouldn't do, but probably overlooking Maryland there. Kansas as well. Then we look at the good kill shot teams in the West. Again, Florida, Memphis, Missouri. We talked about it before. We talked about that list before. Florida, Memphis, and Missouri are the good kill shot teams, which means, again, they go on considerably more runs than they allow. That's how we'll describe it. They go on considerably more runs than they allow. Kill shot runs. So 10-0 or more. Streaky kill shot teams in the West, which means, hey, we go on a lot of runs, but we also give up a lot of runs. Arkansas, the 10 seed right now. Teams that don't go on runs and don't give up runs. 9 seed Oklahoma, which against Florida, they gave up runs. So matched up well there. And then teams that give up runs and don't go on them. Omaha, 15 seed. And Norfolk State, a 16 seed. Like I look at that and I say, okay, just strictly looking at Florida and Norfolk State, I say, okay, well, Florida's a team that goes on a lot of runs and doesn't give up that many. Norfolk State's a team that gives up a lot of runs and doesn't go on that many. And I'm looking at this and I'm just reinforcing the thought that Florida should dominate this game. We've talked about this a lot. I refuse to ever go like, oh yeah, Florida's going to win this game. I refuse to do that because I'm gonna look like a jackass if I'm wrong. But I did it with Miami last year in football. I did it with Ole Miss in football. Went 1-for-1. Shows that, but Florida should absolutely dominate this game. Everything is leaning heavily in Florida's favor, and again, it should. It's a 1 seed versus 16 seed for a reason. Florida should absolutely dominate. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day every day. We are available daily and free reviews in the podcast and on YouTube. We'll be back tomorrow. Talk more Florida Gators basketball. We are talking about the game because, again, they played tomorrow night. Just saying. So we'll talk about that, and we will be back more with Locked On Gators. For Locked On Gators, I'm Brandon Olsen. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter at WNS_Brandon. Find all my written work for New York Giants on SI, and I'll see you all next time.